Friday night, John. Time to investigate. We've got Fauci as a fishmonger in today's thumbnail. I like this one, John. You know, this is another history-making thumbnail. I used AI to create this.
No. Did you really?
I did. Not
Tell me,
completely.
how'd you do? What'd you do? Okay.
Well,
So,
we came up with the idea of discussing red herrings today, and I'm going to ask you in a minute to explain to people what a red herring is for those who don't know. And so I wanted kind of like an old school picture of a fishmonger, and I was able to find that, but only a pretty low res and sort of crappy one. And so what I did was using AI tools, not to create the image from scratch, but to up-res the fishmonger photo. I used that, and then I used my traditional Photoshop techniques to put you and Dr. Fauci in there. But this is you getting served a red herring by the lying loser, Anthony Fauci. What is a red herring, John, for people? It's one of those things that many people are going to say, I've heard that forever. I don't know what the hell it is.
well, it's interesting. The term red herring is used in financial markets and stuff. So, what it means to somebody like Charles Ortel, typically it's before a company does an IPO, they'll put together what is called a red herring, and it's sort of their initial presentation and concept. So in the financial world, it has a completely different meaning than what we're using here tonight. In fact, you can pull it up if you look up, colloquialisms, red herring.
Exactly.
See if you can find a definition. But the notion here is that if it's something that's designed to kind of throw you off course and off track when there's something bigger and larger at stake, like a school of fish. So what do we have here? What does it say? And this is whose dictionary?
This is just the first thing that popped up on the internet. I mean, my understanding of what it means is that because it's red, it's attracting your attention. So it's something that attracts your attention, but actually is intended to distract you. So it says a dried smoked herring, which is turned red by the smoke. I don't think that's what we mean, but a clue or piece of information that is or is intended to be misleading or distracting. That's what we're talking about with the red herring today.
Exactly. So the idea is, if there was a school of fish and there were 1 million of them in the school, and one of those fish was red.
Right. You'd notice
Right,
it.
so now if there are predator fish, they're probably going to chase after that red fish. And the rest of the fish are going to get away. So it's the Kobayashi Maru, or the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few kind of thing, especially when you're a fish. So that's
you talking about Star Trek? Kobayashi Maru. No. That's not the needs of the many. That's where he cheats to win. Needs of the many. That's when Spock is dying in the nuclear reactor, in the warp reactor.
Right, so whatever the hell they call it. So Spock says the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, and that's the red herring scenario. Is one of these, and the other thing is, oftentimes the red herring doesn't realize it's red.
Is it a real thing? Do you actually have red herring as a fish?
I don't know. If not, it's such a strange colloquialism if that's not the case. In other words, who came up with red herring? Why not red tuna? Why not, red dolphin?
Well, it's like hen's teeth, right? Hen don't actually have teeth, but it's still a saying.
Yeah. Now you see that picture of the lure? You have a picture of a fishing lure in the upper left that's red and white on that page that you have.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You see that? Yeah. Take a look at that for a second. Because this is an interesting concept. I think I might have mentioned this last week, and I mentioned it in the shows that I've done recently with Professor Dave Collum from Cornell. And we're talking about how in the world of fishing, there are lures, fishing lures, and some fishing lures look like fish. They look like a little model fish, and they swim like a little model fish. Right. And, you tie it on the line, and it goes through the water, and you're like, wow, look at that thing. It looks like a little fish swimming through the water. And then there's another kind of thing, another type of lure that they make. See if you can look this up. Rattler lures, Rattler, Rattler lures, Lures. And these things have got all kind. They got little ball bearings in them. They've got holograms on them. They're in very bright colors. Yeah, look at that Rattler lure that's $7. That's Dayglow orange, right?
Yeah.
That doesn't look like a fish.
Right.
That's designed to alienate the fish and get its attention, right? So there's kind of I put all the lures into two different categories. The category those that look like little model fish and swim like little model fish, and those that don't. But the ones that don't are designed to attract, and stimulate and really get their attention, like
Mesmerize
really, yeah. And so the red herring concept, we're talking about fish, we're talking about lures, and the idea here is, as we said, what if there was something? Let's use an example. Hypothetically speaking,
Yeah.
if Mary Lou Danley in the Las Vegas shooting case would be a red herring. Let's find out about her. Where did she work? Who did she work with?
But isn't Stephen Paddock entirely a red herring if it's helicopters?
Yeah, right. So, again, each story oftentimes, right, there's going to be this aspect to it that's not necessarily what it's all about. At first we were talking about bats, and then we were talking about pangolins, and then we were talking about raccoon dogs. And, is a raccoon dog a red herring?
Maybe. It's a red raccoon dog.
Right. It's just another bit of, it's like, what? Where did this come from? So one of the concepts, there's a guy on Twitter who's kind of a big deal named Ed Dowd. And he had a tweet that said, imagine this concept for a film, for a movie. What if we did this? And that's kind of what I want to explore tonight, is sort of a concept for a movie. It's a red herring film, and we're going to take a look at that. So we've got a couple videos for our patrons queued up. When we go to our patron only show, you want to tell everybody where they can find us if they want to watch the deep stuff? You want to do that?
Yeah, in about 20 minutes, it's going to be on subscribestar.com/IamJohnCullen, patreon.com/IamJohnCullen, and odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth, crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com, and Subscribestar and Patreon/crowdsourcethetruth. I also want to make sure, John, that people know that you're on Twitter. You were gone for a while, but you've been tearing it up on there. People can follow you at I_am_John Cullen, and you're tickling 13,000 followers on there, so it's a good time for people to follow. You've also posted a lot of great stuff. The other thing people should be following is the John E. Hoover YouTube channel, totally free to follow. Thank you to the people who are watching our simulcast on there right now. But John's been posting a lot of content on the John E. Hoover channel that you're not going to get on Crowdsource the Truth. So it's important for people to follow John not only on subscribestar.com and patreon.com/IamJohnCullen, but get on there on Twitter and also on YouTube and follow John.
Thank you. And it's important to note, I'm not a doctor. I'm not giving any medical advice.
Right.
Far from that. And what we express here are simply our opinions. And in most cases, I'm usually wrong.
What?
So, don't get people. Yeah, people shouldn't get too upset if I'm wrong with an opinion or something, right? My ex-wives will tell you that happens all the time. So these are opinions, right? So everybody just relax. We're going to express some opinions and some ideas and some thoughts, none of which is designed to be advice or anything like that. So everybody just relax. All right, so let's take a look at what we have here in the deck. Earlier today, I had 13,001 followers on Twitter, so I must have gone backwards.
What happened?
I don't know, but I had 13,001 earlier. I took a screenshot of that. It should be in my deck if you open up the deck.
Which one, though? Because we've got two decks today.
The one that's the primary deck.
The red
one
herring.
that doesn't have... Yeah.
Got it. Okay, sorry. That's a nice looking... Is this your newly commissioned Cullen Airlines private jet?
Yeah, if you're on Patreon long enough, you really start making the big bucks. You start getting
Yeah.
the $7 from Rumble and everything. You can
Oh,
afford a
wow. Look at
Gulfstream
that.
G650.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
so this is what happens when you get to 13,000 followers. You get a marquee jet card. They put your name on one of these things, and
Wow.
away you go. So yeah, it's awesome. I'm psyched. So
650.
next time we
Nice.
go to Vegas, we're taking this thing. All right, so
Okay.
let's go. So the next slide is kind of the net of a lot of this stuff, and I
Right.
just love this slide. I mean, this is one of my favorite slides. I got this from a doctor friend in the UK, and this is kind of my position right now. Is until somebody else realizes and recognizes that there's a much bigger story here than the one that you've been told on the news. I just can't let it go because there's just much, much more to the story. And the fun thing for me is sharing information with people that they've never seen before.
Yeah.
And you and I are kind of good at digging up stuff that people have never seen before, right? And in
Right.
particular, there's aspects of this story that people really have never seen before, stuff in Nigeria, things like that.
Yeah.
So it kind of blows people away when they see it. And one of the things that I've been harping about is that it appeared to me that we were in the midst of an influenza pandemic
Right.
when this other pandemic showed up. That's it. Nothing controversial. You watch TV, right? If you watch television in January, they were saying, gee whiz, this is a pretty bad influenza thing. And then it disappeared, and it disappeared for almost 2 years, according to the WHO and according to Dr. Fauci. We've heard Dr. Fauci tell us that it disappeared, Brett. It was remarkable, disappeared in Australia, right? It was phenomenal. But look what happened when it returned.
Yeah.
Look how high
Huge.
that is.
Right.
And so again, I'm because I'm not a doctor and I'm not a virologist and I'm not an epidemiologist, I'm confused and I don't understand why that doesn't get people's attention.
Well, we don't have a frame of reference. You know what? This reminds me a little bit of certain things that are happening to me in court. And I don't know if you had a chance to see this earlier, John, but kind of a major breakthrough in Steele v. Goodman. Did I tell you about this?
No, but I have to step away for a second. I was going to have you play a video clip as I stepped away from the camera for a sec.
What
I've got
clip
a
do you
video.
want?
The Larry Ellison on First Principles basically explains why I'm such a dick. And I'm going to step away. Larry Ellison on First Principles. It's in the video folder that you have. And I'm going to have you play that as I step away from the microphone for a second, and I'll be back in 10 seconds.
Okay, no problem. We'll be watching this video.
All right. All right. You'll cut away from my my video feed too.
You're gone. Now, but wait a minute. You're using licensed music that we're going to get dinged over, I think. So we'll leave that music out, I think. Yeah. So 35 years ago, XYZ Johns Hopkins used the map for the pandemic. Oh, yeah, right. Larry Ellison, right. So remember, John told us.
And think things out for yourself, whether they're scientific principles or moral principles or business ideas or product ideas. Question experts. To question authorities figures. Don't assume just because they're an authority or even just because they're an expert that they're right. In other words, think things out for yourself. Come to your own judgments. Don't simply conform to conventional ways of thinking, conventional ways of dressing, conventional ways of acting. That a lot of things are based on fashion. Even morality at times is based on fashion. There are an enormous number of people in the world who really want standard answers. They want everyone to wear their hair the same way, everyone to conduct business the same way, everyone to dress the same way, everyone to go to the same church. There's a very and if you wander outside of these norms, people are highly critical because it's threatening to them. Because they're living their life one way and they believe that's the proper way to live their life. And if you live your life a different way and you answer questions differently, that makes them feel very uncomfortable. And they say, well, this person's different from I am, and then they simply go a little further, and they say this person's different and wrong. And I try to reason things back from first principles. I try to think about things and come to conclusions and make my own decisions. And if other people if I've thought things through, If someone has a logical criticism and can explain to me why what I'm doing is wrong, and they can convince me, I'll change. If they really can, if they have good reasons, I'll just alter my behavior. I love it when people point out I'm wrong, explain to me why I'm wrong, and I then change. That's great. I don't want to be wrong.
Pretty good. There's something interesting that I just learned from that video, John.
What's
No matter how much money you have, hair dye looks fake still.
Well, no, that was probably shot 25 years ago or something. He was
maybe he's got better hair dye now.
Old. He was probably 50 when they shot that. Right. But I mean, that's kind of the way I think is, I listen to the experts and I see what they have to say. And then I look at the data. And if you show the audience this multi-year picture from the WHO, do you have to be an epidemiologist? Do you have to go study virology for 7 years to see that the spike on the right is the biggest one we've seen in a dozen years?
Nope.
And so then it begs the question. It's like, well, how is that not important? How is that not getting people's attention?
Let's reiterate this in the audience's mind. I don't know if that was clear from the beginning. This chart goes from 2010 through to 2023. Right.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of time right there. And it's kind
of
going up.
Look how much bigger the one on the right is compared to all the other years. And that just happened.
Isn't it sort of gradually going up each year? I mean, we're missing it right here. But if we had a slightly taller here and a slightly taller here, this would be maybe, is this, listen, we're getting into stuff that we can't talk about here on YouTube.
Right.
And this is exactly why we do the shows on subscribestar.com/IamJohnCullen, patreon.com/IamJohnCullen, Subscribestar and Patreon /crowdsourcethetruth, and Odyssey.com and Substack, because we need to be able to talk about this. People who watch our show, John, I think already recognize that this is very alien in the United States of America for somebody to say, you're not allowed to talk about that. That's just not the way things are supposed to work, even if what you're talking about is highly objectionable.
The thing is, I don't find it that objectionable. And I think that sort of the category that they put this stuff in, again, whether they have in the past have said that it's medical misinformation, but we're pretty clear we're not doctors, we don't give medical information. But the other thing is that they say it's like dangerous to the community or something like that. And that's like,
why not just ignore it? How is it dangerous? Just don't pay attention to it.
Yeah, and how is this any more dangerous than saying the Earth is flat, or these are lizard people, or how is this any more dangerous than anything else?
I don't think they let you say that stuff either.
Oh, well, whatever. I don't know. I think you can say the Earth is flat as much as you want.
Because I think they know that's stupid.
Yeah, it depends on who you call a lizard person. I think if you call Willem Dafoe a lizard person, I think that's allowed. I think that's allowed.
He was the Green Goblin. The lizard, I forget who played the lizard. It was terrible. All
right, but anyway, the point here is that the peak of the influenza thing, it just happened. This is massive. This is in the United States. All right, we go to the next slide in the deck. This is sort of the thing that we've been seeing. No, the one you just had with the Pentagon. Yeah, so there's been a lot of chatter on Twitter lately about how this whole COVID thing was like military. People were saying military this, military that, the military. And we know that there's Operation Warp Speed, right? We know that they got involved.
Right.
But everybody's been talking about this. Peter McCullough, the Brownstone, everybody's throwing that around. And it really just gets me thinking more and more and more as Congress is investigating. They're now talking more and more about the origins of COVID. Did it come from the lab? Did it not come from the lab? Did we spend the money? Did we send the money? Did we send it to EcoHealth and not there directly? And we went around the bend and and everybody's talking about it. Everybody's talking about that stuff. And, tongue in cheek, 2 years ago or something, I think I came up with the term Wuhan Schmoohan.
Yeah.
Which I probably stole from Jon Stewart in a dream he had, right? That sounds like something he would say is Wuhan Schmoohan. It's not something I would say. But it just kind of summed up for me this whole, who cares? To me. Now, this again, you have to understand my opinions are strange. I'm a strange guy, right? So I wear different colored socks as long as they're the same weave. right? So I look at things differently, right? So everybody's talking about defense, the military, they're involved, these countermeasures, and so it just starts getting you thinking, why would the military be involved in something like that? How would they get involved? U.S. military involved in like a virus thing?
But
How would they be? Why
Fort
would they
Meade
be
and all
involved?
that.
Like you mean like U.S. AMRID, like USAMRIID, where Dr. Judy used to work? You mean those guys? You mean them? USAMRIID, where Dr. Judy used to work? Nah. What would they have anything to do with something like this? Why would they get involved in something like this?
Because they are the medical, what are they? Medical Research
Countermeasure.
Institute of Infectious Diseases.
And they
So that's what they do.
take care of all of our countermeasures and all that. So kind of makes it sound, like wartime kind of stuff, like, bioterrorism, like the stuff that Bill Gates was talking about at that TED thing. It's kind of scary. So I wanted to just kind of look into where's all the attention going lately, right? So we talk about the military and the military's involvement. And then you go, well, wait a second. The military, that's who built all those damn field hospitals, right? They're the guys who set up the Javits thing. And right, go to the next slide. Whose boat was it? The boat that they sent up that was the Navy. The Navy. So the Navy gets involved. And then everybody always says follow the money, right? Everybody says qui bono.
I don't think they even know what they're talking about when they say that. That's just something that people say.
Right. And that's why I threw this next slide in here. I felt when I did the show with Dr. Dave Cullen, and I told him about the field hospitals and how they broke them down May 1st, he was like, what? Come on. He's like, that's
he didn't know that they had broken them down.
No. Well, he didn't know that they broke them down that quickly in 10 days, 11 days. Right. And so I said, no, that's what happened. And he's like, oh, you got to send me some articles and, show me that really happened. So I'm digging up the articles to make sure, to show that happened. And I stumble on this article that says Robbins and Morton completes the 450-bed Miami Beach Convention Field Hospital ahead of schedule. So this is one of the companies. This is a contractor. And you can see how much money they got to stand this thing up for 10 days.
How much?
All right. I think it was $112 million or something like that. Yeah. Crazy amount of money. So the idea here is there's big money being doled out to stand up these field hospitals, and then 10 days later they put them away. So I just thought that was fun.
But every single one of them, they're saying, oh, these things didn't even treat anybody, right?
Right. Basically. Well, that's right. They were for hospital overflow in the event that the hospitals couldn't handle ... Don't bring your COVID patients here. Wow. And the fun thing, so the next slide is sort of, to me, this is the gut punch. And oftentimes investigative journalists will end up with a piece of evidence that's very meaningful, and then just carry on because the news cycles carry on. And it's almost like if you don't, you're kind of seen as, you're like a bump on the log or something. It's
lingering
like,
on something.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's some of these pieces of evidence that I just keep coming back to. That's just like, this is earth shattering. This
Master of Blackjack says the hospital is a scam. Saran wrap walls.
Well, I don't know about that. But so to me, this is sort of the gut punch that breaks the matrix.
How?
There's a point where Neo wakes up in that pod, right? There's a point
you're saying
where
because
Neo,
there was so few deaths and somehow they anticipated that it was going to go all the way up here and took the appropriate measures, but there really was no way at this point for people to know that it would have this result.
Given what we knew was happening in Asia. In other words, March 14th, there's not, it says 76 people dead. This is the next day. This is the day after, this is the day after the president declares a national emergency. So the Friday he declares it. The next day we're up to 76 dead. And we're deploying field hospitals and NORAD and FEMA and what? Now, what makes it relevant is there's not 400,000 people dead in China. There's 3,500 people dead in China.
Yeah, so it doesn't make sense that they would anticipate large fatalities.
What do you?
Oh, John,
Yeah,
I'm looking at the time.
yeah.
Hey, we're out of
Oh
time.
my God. Oh my
Yeah.
God. All right. Yeah, we got to go.
Well, I didn't get to
we'll
tell you about
continue
what
on.
happened in Steele v. Goodman, but we can talk about that on the sponsor side. People
And
can
we got a
join
lot
us
more
in
videos.
5
Yeah,
minutes.
half
We
a
got
dozen more videos.
more slides, tons to talk about. Come and join us on subscribestar.com/IamJohnCullen, patreon.com/IamJohnCullen, odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth, crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com, or Subscribestar or Patreon/crowdsourcethetruth. And we will be back momentarily. Thanks for tuning in.